イムです。
マリサだぜ。
今回はとあるお嬢さんの付き添いです。昔の家に戻るらしいのですが、一人では心配という理由で、チャンネルの運営者から、ついていくよう言われました。
私は完全にとばっちりなんだぜ。
まあ、気晴らしの旅行だと思って。
A lot of this isn't going to make sense to you. And I'm sorry about that. I'm just gonna start at the beginning, with the house.
船から降りて家が見えてきました。
あれが城みたいなのに見えるんだが、
曰く付きらしいのでワクワクしますね。
巫女的にか。
いや、幽霊カメラに収めたら高く売れるじゃないですか。
But I wasn't allowed inside half the rooms.
やっぱ救えねえよ。お前。
まあ、カメラ持ってないんですけどね。
ポストだぜ。一応ちゃんと家なんだな。
ラブレターとか入ってませんかね。
Inside the mailbox were bills from 7 years ago, marked urgent, open immediately.
なんだ、お前のところに毎日来てる手紙だな。
見なかったことにしましょう。
I hadn't been back since my brother Lewis's funeral.
柵は腹で開けていくスタイル。
ねえよそんなスタイル。
In her will, my mother left me a key, but didn't tell me what it unlocked.
母親から鍵をもらってあるそうだな。
開ける場所がわからないですって。
Maybe she thought I'd know. Or she thought that the mystery would be enough to bring me back.
順当に考えて玄関じゃないか。
宝物庫かも。あのお城ならありえるくない。
お前はお触り禁止な。絶対盗むだろ。
そんなことないよ。
それにしても暗いな。まだ昼前なんだけどな。
絶対夜には来たくないですね。
I never thought I'd come back to it. But now I had questions about my family that only the house knew the answers to.
ねえそこら辺にカエルいない？
鳴き声はするな。探せばいるんじゃないか。
今夜の夕飯に何匹か欲しいな。
どこぞの神社が怖いからやめとけって。
The woods around the house have always been uncomfortably silent. As if they're about to say something but never do.
マリサ、夜にここで肝試し。
絶対やだ。
リングがあるじゃん。バスケしようよ。
ボールはお前な。
あんこ溢れちゃうからなしで。
カエルは諦めろって。
The house was exactly like I remembered it. The way I'd been dreaming about it.
なんかハローネイバー感が強いね。
でも子供心にはクリティカルヒットしそうだな。カエルはいないぞ。
もしかしたら一匹くらいは。
ないです。
As a child, the house made me uncomfortable in a way I couldn't put into words.
マリサと同じこと言ってるわね。
Now, as a 17-year-old, I knew exactly what those words were. I was afraid of the house.
あら、マリサの言ってたことと違うじゃない。
手のひら回転しすぎじゃないですかね。
お邪魔します。
I hoped the key might unlock the front door. It didn't.
霊夢は嫌だってよ。
ドアのくせに生意気な。
Looking in, I felt like the house itself had been waiting for me.
とりあえず他の入り口を探さなきゃな。
裏口とかあるんですかね。
このペット用入り口から入れそうだな。
毎回思うんですけど、これ防犯的にダメじゃない？
こんな偏僻な土地ならある程度は大丈夫だろ。
Crawling through the doggy door used to be a lot easier when I was 11.
ここはガレージっぽいわね。
洗剤やペンキもあるし、そうだろうな。
The power had been turned off the night we left.
お前の家じゃん。
まだ泊まって半年です。
For the first time in years, I felt like I was home. But instead of a family, they were just memories of one.
結構生活感残ってるな。夜逃げでもしたのか。
請求書もあったから、そうかもしれないね。
Like how after Lewis started working at the cannery, we all got sick of eating salmon. Except our cat, Molly.
こんなにあるなら少しくらいもらっても。
7年以上前のだぞ。缶詰だから希望はあるが。
The table was still a wreck from the night we left.
やっぱり夜逃げ説はあるか
It
も。
was like a bomb had gone off, killing everyone but sparing the furniture.
まともな引っ越しではなかったらしいな。
Nothing in the house looked abnormal. There was just too much of it, like a smile with too many teeth. Even the fireplace had a story. Edie told me the bricks came from the original house, after it sank.
結構豪邸じゃん。
海外と日本の家じゃ色々違うからな。ただ、お前の掘ったて小屋とはえらい違いだな。
Mom always told me to stay out of the basement, so I wasn't too surprised when the key didn't fit.
オルゴールか。
Great Grandpa Sven built a music box for Barbara, along with the rest of the house.
スエンって人がこの家を作ったのね。
もはやこの家は芸術作品レベルだけどな。
A lot of things got left behind in the whirlwind of that last night.
過去に何かあったのは間違いないらしい。
After Milton disappeared, Mom sealed up all the bedrooms. Then Edie retaliated and drilled peepholes.
なんだか人数が増えてきてこんがらがってきたわ。
My Grandpa Sam spent 7 years sharing a room with his dead brother, Calvin.
結構、家財道具が残ってるあたり、生々しいな。
もうここに住みたいんだけど、
忘れか、曰くつきだぞここ。あ。
Mom must have locked the third floor stairs on the night we left.
どうやら母親が色々と家を閉じたらしいな。
The last time I was in Edith Sr.'s room, I was 10 and she was painting my portrait.
結構な人数がこの家に住んでたのね。
しかも全員職業はバラバラらしいな。
I spent a lot of time playing in Great Uncle Walter's room. I think my mom sometimes regretted not sealing it up. Lewis told me there were secret passages, but I never believed him.
どうやら鍵はこの本のだったようだな。
お宝じゃないのね。
Turns out, my mom was really good at keeping secrets. Now it was time to find out what my mom had been afraid of.
やっぱりお宝かも。
スエンも遊び心がある人だったんだな。
Reading this, maybe it sounds like I had a plan. From the paintings on the wall, it was clear my brother Milton had been here before me. But I had no idea what was behind that door.
お姫様の部屋みたいなところに出てきたわね。
ここも住人の
Just
うち
like I
誰
had
かの
no
変だろん
idea
だろ。
where all this was gonna lead.
ドアにあったが、モリーの部屋らしいな。
December 13th, 1947. Dear Diary, I'll be gone soon, but I wanted to tell somebody about what's gonna happen. It started when Mom sent me to bed without dinner.
夕
I
食抜
woke
きなん
up
て
and
朝
I was
飯前よ。
starving,
日本語おかし
so
く
I
なって
looked
るぞ。
around for something to eat. The gerbil food was dry, but I didn't mind it.
うわ
食べれるだけマシよ。
Mom, can I come out now?
sweetheart. It's late. Go to sleep.
せめて夕食くらいは食べさせてあげてほしいんだぜ。
My Halloween candy was all gone. I thought about eating Christopher, but I held back.
金魚は油で揚げると美味しいわよ。いらない豆知識だな。
I kept eating and eating.
これはマジで下痢するからやめた方がいいわ。
経験済みかよ。
おそらくここが黒く濁るわよ。
はい、こ
I
の
ate a
話
lot
終
of
了。
things that night.
こういうのって増加じゃないのか。
さあ、食べたことないからわかんない。
Then I heard chirping outside my window. It was a barn swallow going back to her nest. I reached out for her. And suddenly, I was a cat.
これはもはや妖怪なのでは？
まだ夢落ちの可能性があるしなんとも言えないな。
I tried to be quiet, but the bird was really scared.
とりあえずあの鳥を追いかけてみるか。
クリスマスシーズンなのね。
夕食抜きにしたのはプレゼントの準備メカメカもな。
Mom and Dad didn't even look at me. I jumped and I almost got her.
「ツリーハウスがあるところが海外らしいわね。
欧米なんかの郊外でよく見られるよな。
えげつない高さね。玉ヒュンしそう。
お前玉ついてないだろ。
I could tell she was getting really tired. Now I was up in the big tree. I promised Dad I wouldn't climb it anymore. All I cared about was eating that mama bird. I gobbled her up. And suddenly, I was an owl. First, all I heard was the wind. Then I heard little teeth nibbling in the grass.
随分と壮大だな。
私も鶏肉食べたい。
お前字幕に被ってるぞ。
ごめん。心の目で読んでね。
そんな無茶な。
Rabbits.
うさぎ肉いいな。
それは月の奴らにやられるぞ。
食べたいものも食べれないこんな世の中じゃ。
ポイズン。
I imagined his face looking up and seeing mine through my talons. I swallowed him up, and I didn't chew one bit. Then I flew off to find something bigger.
丸飲みとはもったいないですね。
A mama rabbit.
ほら、もう一匹いたぞ。
She was almost too big to carry. I started choking, but I couldn't stop eating. And suddenly, I was a shark!
バカゲーで見たことある光景ね。陸じゃいくらサメでも無理だろ。痛そう。
I rolled off a cliff and into the ocean.
食べ放題の開始ですね。そうは言っても、この浅さなら小魚くらいじゃないか。
I wanted fat, juicy seeds. I tore off her flipper, and it tasted really good.
普通に大物だったな。野生動物の方が私よりいい生活してる。
Grabbed on tight. But I was so hungry, I jumped out of the water. When I opened my eyes, everything had changed.
うわぁ、キモい。触手系の化け物か何かか。となると食べ物は人間かな。そうだろうな。船の上だし、味付けは何にしよう。生だろ。てか食うなよ。冗談。
Now I was
さ
a
すがに遠
monster,
慮する
and
わ。
I smelled people everywhere.
何かの歌が聞こえるね。おそらく、酔いどれ水夫っていう歌だな。もともとは力を入れるときに歌う作業歌らしいぜ。へえ。
I was big, but I moved real quiet.
ますますキモいなぁ。ヘビみたいな感じで丸飲みなんだろうな。うへぇ。
I wanted to stop, but also I didn't.
残りは2人ね。気づきそうなもんだけどな。相当お歌に夢中なんじゃないかな。どの道はいつも食われるけどな。
After the last passenger, I was still hungry. And across the water, I smelled something new. Something I had to have, so I swam towards it. I slithered onto the sand, and the good smell went into an old pipe.
何やら下水管みたいなところに来たわね。となると次の獲物も多分人間だろうな。下水から触手とかトラウマ級じゃん。マジでそれはやばい。動きがリアルすぎて鳥肌なんだけど、ほら食えよ。無理です。
I got closer and closer.
あれここもリーの部屋じゃない？言われてみればそうだな。となると次の獲物は、
All of my stomach started growling. And suddenly, I was me again. I held my breath for a long time, but I couldn't hear anything. think it's waiting for me to fall asleep. But it's not going to wait much longer. It needs to feed, and we both know I will be delicious.
それで結局食べられた、あるいは失踪しちゃったのね。
だんだん曰く付きの意味が分かってきたな。
何らかが原因で家族がみんな失踪してい
I'm
くの
not
ね。
sure if I
これは
believed
他
all
の
of
住
that,
人も分け
but
あ
I'm
りそう
sure
だな。
Edie would have. This will be obvious later, but my mom never told me any of these stories. Edie would have, but Mom didn't like bringing up the past. Though, when we adopted a stray kitten, she was the one who named it Molly. I spent a lot of time in Great-Grandma Edie's room.
どうやらここはイーディの部屋のようね。
Rooms like a
話から聞い
museum.
ても、最高齢だったろうな。
For 500 years, the Finches have been famous throughout Norway for their fortune. And misfortune. Odin Finch buries the latest victims of the family curse, his wife Ingeborg and their newborn son, Johan. On January 7th, 1937, he set sail with his family and his house, hoping to leave the curse. But 40-foot waves off the coast of Washington send the house and Odin to the bottom of the sea. Odin's daughter Edie, with husband Sven and baby Molly, step ashore on their new home, Orcas Island. Odin Finch is the first to be buried in the new family cemetery. His daughter Edie is already dreaming of a new Finch house.
「どうやらこの一家の不幸は代々昔からみたいだな。
Whatever's wrong with this family, it goes back a long ways.
アリエッティでもいたのかしら。
Louis died a week before we left, but Edie had already started to memorialize him. Edie gave a big interview about a mole man living under the Finch house. My mom was furious.
モグラ男ねえ。この辺も何か関
I
係して
hadn't
くる
thought
ん
of
だろう
myself
か。
as Edith Jr. for a long, long time. When Edie told people Sven was killed by a dragon, she could also have said he was building a dragon-shaped slide that collapsed. She could have, but she didn't.
どうやらこの家を作ったスエンは事故死らしいな。
木工作業中に亡くなったのね。
Even in her 90s. Sometimes Edie seemed a lot younger than my mother.
確かに、ご高齢でも元気な人はいるよな。
ゆかりとかね。
お前絶対長生きできないぞ。
The only trace Grandpa Sam's first wife Kay left on the house was the pink bathroom. It was a pretty big trace. There's a secret in this bathroom. It's in the last place you would look. It isn't in the cupboard. It's hidden in this book.
スエン絶対頭いいだろ。
Sven gave Sam an old camera he'd refurbished. He never put it down.
新しい部屋に到着ね。
ここは序盤に覗き穴から見た部屋だな。
knew Grandpa Sam had a twin, and that he never talked about him. I guess my grandpa didn't like history any more than my mom did.
How I Want to Remember My Brother by Sam Finch. The thing I remember is that when he made up his mind, that was it.
綺麗な眺めだね。
ああ、だがこの向きだと海に落ちそうで心配だな。
My brother said he'd die before he ate another mushroom. And he did. At Barbara's funeral, we swore he'd never be afraid again. And he wasn't. I think Calvin always wanted to fly.
Sam! Calvin! Dinner's ready! Coming!
But that day, he finally made up his mind to do it. I told him going around was impossible. Maybe if I hadn't said that,
Calvin! I'm not gonna tell you again!
maybe if the wind hadn't picked up, then maybe he'd still be here. But I doubt it. I think he'd already made up his mind. That's what I want to remember about my brother. The day he made up his mind to fly, and he did.
Calvin's story felt strangely familiar. When I was younger, I remember trying to do the exact same thing.
カルインも事故死だったんだな。でもブランコ一回転はやろうと思ったことあるんじゃない？そうだな。マリサは成功した。
魔法で一発だったのぜ。カルインは宇宙飛行士、サムは軍人になりたかったみたいだな。サムの方も気になるけどここにフラ
Mom
グは
said
なさそう
Grandpa
だ
Sam
ね。
enlisted at 18 and never set foot in the room again.
「てか今見た感じ、まだ結構いそうね。
気楽に行こうぜ。日帰りの予定だしな。
帰ったら何食べる？
とりあえずマッシュルームパスタで。
私は雑草の煮浸し。
もっとまともなもの食えよ。
じゃあどんぐりスープ。
他には、
バッタの串焼き。
前言撤回。お前ならしぶとく生き残りそうだな。
The passages were a pretty tight fit. They'd obviously been built for smaller hands and bellies.
「ここに繋がってたのね。
Growing up, I always thought of Barbara as a child star. Of all the stories people wrote about Barbara's death, I'm surprised Edie saved this one.
Old Jack here with another ghastly tale inspired by America's most unfortunate family. I'm calling it The Surprise Ending of Barbara Finch. As a child star, Barbara was famous for her scream. Now at 16, she was all washed up. A has-been. But in a lucky break, she'd been asked to perform her signature scream at a local convention for monster movie fans. It was just the boost her career needed. Unfortunately, her scream hadn't aged well.
Getting better. I think you just need the right motivation.
Her biggest fan and current boyfriend, Rick, was about to demonstrate when...
Now that was a great scream.
It was Barbara's father, Sven. He'd slipped into a table saw and had to be rushed to the emergency room. So Barbara got stuck babysitting her youngest brother, Walter. Her convention comeback was cancelled.
Okay, I'm hearing frustration, but I'm not hearing terror. What if I tried...
A gang of hoodlums in Halloween masks have been terrorizing Orcas Island tonight. Police are urging residents to...
That came from the basement.
You're right! Also, I loved your delivery on that. Why is your basement door locked?
Because my dad likes making puzzles and secret passages. There's a key hidden in the music box. The secret is to keep winding and winding until finally the key pops out.
Thanks, babe. I'll be back in a sec.
20 minutes later, Rick hadn't returned. So Barbara went to look for him, right on cue. She reached for the music box. And as she wound the key, she listened for Rick, but the house was silent.
デドバのマイケルみたいな BGM 流れてるわね。不穏な空気だな。
She found Rick's crutch and imagined the worst.
とりあえずこれを武器として持っていこう。
The gang's leader is the infamous Hookman killer, Dr. Carl Hamill, who impaled and then ate his family 10 years ago tonight.
Finch rattled and grew still.
臨戦態勢よ。警戒していくんだぜ。
Oh dear!
Oh!
Rick?
Barb, relax. I was just trying to scare you to help you find your scream.
Well, I'm not scared, Rick. I'm furious.
Then act furious. All I'm getting from you now is that you're hurt and confused and
She threw him out, but she kept a little something to remember him by.
Barb, have you seen my other crutch?
And she was still holding it when she fell asleep watching the Late Late Picture Show. Hours later...
Barbara! Walter, what's going on up there? Ah! Okay, I'm coming up, but if this is a trick, you're dead, Walter.
「どうやらまだ終わってないらしいな。うわー。ビビりすぎだろ。イヤスでびっくりしたわ。
was still on.
Orcas Island police described the man as 6 feet tall, with a steel hook for a hand. Residents are urged to lock all doors and windows and notify the police of any suspicious activity.
Barbara turned, saw the hook man, and was speechless. He was quite smashing. And he was. He couldn't get enough of Barbara.
Okay, Barbara. There's gotta be another way out of here.
ウォルターの姿がないな。先に逃げたんじゃない？そんな気配はなかったけどな。
That night, she played her part beautifully.
さあ、やられたらやり返しましょうか。反撃開始といきますか。
Molly's door hadn't been opened in years. The hinges grow. He wasn't moving, but she sensed the story might not be over yet.
死体蹴りでもしに行くか。じゃあ私は屈伸担当で。リスポーンしてるんだけど。
Had vanished. She listened for his breathing, but all she heard was...
ドア前ガン待ちとは卑怯な。とりあえず見てみようぜ。
Someone at the door was dying to speak to young Barbara. At the door, she heard whispering. It was coming from inside the house.
Oh dear.
You were wonderful. The monsters had come to surprise her. For Barbara, it was a dream come true. Then she saw what kind of monsters they were, and she realized what was about to happen. She was going to be famous. And with her final breath, Barbara Finch gave the performance of her life. I wasn't there myself, but I hear Barbara was magnificent. Poor girl. She had a taste for stardom. But unfortunately, so did her fans. Of course, the police blamed it all on poor Rick, who disappeared the same night. And little Walter? Hiding under his bed the whole time. He took it all pretty hard, but that's another story. As for Barbara, tucked inside the music box was all they ever found of her. Her ear. Now that's what I call a real eerie tale.
Edie told me all Barbara wanted was to be remembered, as absurd as that comic was. Maybe what Edie saw was a happy ending.
ハッピーエンドは人によって解釈違うものね。そうだな。本人からしたら望んだ結末だったのかもな。
I guess now I know why Mom didn't like me playing with the music box.
とりあえず漫画に出てきたオルゴールをいじってみるか。
Whenever people ask me about my family, the first thing they always want to know about is Barbara.
どうした？
お腹が空いて動けません。
そこは根性でなんとかしろよ。
無理です。マリサなんか食べ物持ってないの。
しょうがないな。ほらキノコ汁だ。
何それ？
みんな大好きキノコ汁だぜ。遠慮するなよ。
なんか押し入れみたいなするけど。
いいから飲めって。おい吐くなよ。もったいないだろ。
何これ？劇薬か何か？
栄養たっぷりのキノコ汁だぜ。うまいだろ。
味覚崩壊してるよ。多分。
お前がか。それは残念だな。この味がわからないとは。
当分マリサからご飯はもらわないわ。
アリスなんか嬉しさのあまり泣きながら飲んでたぜ。
マリサ、それちゃう。マジ泣きや。
ほら、栄養補給しただろ。早く行くぞ。
いや、結局何も食べれてないんですが。
あとはこのクッキーくらいしかないんだが。
むしろそっちがいいです。それをお願いします。
ほらよ。
もぐ。
キノコ汁入りクッキーだ。砂糖控えめだぜ。
自分のバカさ加減に頭痛がするわ。
ようやく自分がバカなことを自覚したか。
はい、もう行きますよ。
さすがに幽霊はいないと思うが少し不気味だな。
私はマリサの方が不気味だよ。
Mom said the basement was off limits, unless I wanted another tetanus shot. I saw Edie sneak down to the basement once, carrying packages. I thought maybe she was hiding presents. It turned out she was hiding a lot more than that.
怪しげな通路を見つけたぜ。
I remember asking Mom once about where Walter had gone. She said after Barbara died, he got as far away as he could.
宝の
If
山じゃ
there's a
ない
pattern in all these stories,
ちょもらっていきたいんだけど。
やめとけ。絶対消費期限過ぎてるぞ。
キノコ汁よりマシよ。
I think it's that none of us has gotten very far.
Goodbye, everyone. I can't believe I've been down here for 30 years. On that first day, after the shaking started, I didn't think I'd survive a week. But after a few days, I settled into a routine. That's what kept me sane. Having a schedule, living for today. I always expected to be dead tomorrow. But if you wait long enough, you get used to anything. Even a monster on the other side of the door starts to feel normal. Almost friendly. And then one day, everything just stopped. Whatever that thing was, it was gone. Maybe it got tired of waiting. Or maybe I just got tired of being afraid. It's been a week now, the longest in 30 years. I'm done waiting. I have to leave while I still can.
Yeah, 食料はもう諦めろよ。
桃缶。
I know it's out there, somewhere. Whatever killed Barbara and Molly and Calvin.
ゴミが捨てられてるな。マジで一歩も外に出なかったんだな。腐ってるって、腹壊すぞ。
キノコ汁、
食いたくなったのか。
いや、いいです。
Maybe this is all a mistake. But I need to stop living the same day, even if it kills me. Whatever's out there, I want you to know I'm ready for it. I'm going to appreciate all of it, especially the food. I don't mind if I only have a year left, or a month, or a single week. I'd be happy with one more day. I can already imagine the sun on my face.
Walter died when I was 6. I can't believe my mom never told me he was down here. I'm sure my mom was trying to protect me. Maybe she was afraid I'd end up like Walter. But if she never told me about an uncle under the house...
トマト系の何かだな。ビタミン剤。よくあるシリアルだな。ピーナッツバター、おそらく食えないだろうけど。
I can only imagine what else she was hiding. I don't want to make the same mistakes she made. Trying to bury something that's still alive. Now that there's only one of us left, or maybe two,
ほとんど家族がいなくなっちゃっ
I
たの
thought it
ね。
was time
そりゃ
I
変
heard
な
the
曰くも
stories
つ
for
くか。
myself and found out what happened to everyone else. But now I'm worried the stories themselves might be the problem. Maybe we believed so much in a family curse, we made it real.
どうやら電車にひかれて亡くなったらしいな。
ここは家の外れの崖のようね。
とりあえず家に戻るんだぜ。
Maybe it'd be better if all this just died with me. But I thought you should know about your family. And the history you're a part of. Though to be honest, I feel as lost as you probably do right now. I think the people in these stories believed them, for what that's worth. And when you look at the house, that history of imagination and stubbornness and madness, any of it seems possible.
とりあえず敷地内には戻ってきたぜ。
I think we've been surrounded by death for so long, we've just gotten used to it. What kind of family finishes building a cemetery before starting the house? It's embarrassing for me to admit this, but the pet cemetery made me more uncomfortable than the human one. 3 of the gerbils were mine, and 2 had been my fault.
"結構な数飼ってたのね。
金魚のクリストファー君も5年は生きたんだな。
Sven built the house, but it was Edie who designed the cemetery. I'm sure Odin's monument had been Edie's idea. My mom was always trying to move on, but for Edie, the past never went away. She could see it poking out of the water at low tide. Edie said she dreamed about the old house every night.
おそらくあれがイーディの部屋で見た家だろうな。
今はもう海に沈んじゃってるのね。
Edie's side was always easier for me to understand. But the older I get, the more I can see where my mom was coming from. Her dad had been pretty strict, but it wasn't enough to save her brothers. She was just trying to do better. She lost 2 of her brothers, just like I did. I get why she tried so hard to protect us. There's so many things I wish I could ask my mom now. Part of me thinks this is what she wanted all along. For me to come back someday and find everything out for myself. But looking back on it now, if she told me there was going to be so much climbing, I never would have come when I was 22 weeks pregnant.
妊婦さんだったのね。
にしては結構無茶するよな。
あ、はしごは向こうか。
I never met Grandpa Sam, but I think he and my mom had a lot in common.
ここでサムの記録を回収するのか。
They were both pretty intense.
Dawn, I promise, you'll never forget this weekend.
Yes, sir.
These memories are gonna last a lifetime.
Am I gonna have to shoot anything?
It's a hunting trip, Dawn. Shooting is strongly encouraged. Perfect.
It's gonna rain the whole weekend, isn't it? I will never forget this weekend, Dad.
That's the spirit. Smile, Dawn.
この雨の中笑いは無理があると思うぞ。
Okay, got it.
I'm gonna take some pictures, okay?
Just be careful. That camera's older than you are. Hey!
That's a keeper.
Definitely should not have drunk all that coffee. I'm just saying, I'm not always gonna be here, Dawn. You'll need to remember this stuff, if you want to survive.
I'll be fine, Dad.
You know who else thought he was gonna be fine?
Some guy who died.
Dawn, I'm being serious.
I know, Dad. You're always serious. Doesn't being out here make you want to chill out?
To tell you the truth, I haven't been out here in 20 years. Dawn, don't you think you could find something more interesting to photograph?
どうやら別の何かを撮らなきゃいけないらしいな。
Last time I was with my brother Calvin. Man, that was a great trip. Your grandpa Sven taught us how to fish, how to build a fire.
Dad!
Good eyes, Dawn. Before you take the shot, let me get a picture of it.
Dad,
Just breathe. Let me get behind you.
do I have to do this?
Dawn, you don't have to do anything. But if you want... Great shot, Dawn!
幼い子にしてはショックでしょうね。自分で一つの命を奪ったんだからな。
I'm proud of you, Dawn. Always remember that, okay? Sorry, Dawn. Just gotta reset the timer.
何やってるんだ、サム。
Dad, it's twitching. I think
That's
it's
totally
so...
normal, Dawn. Just focus on the camera. Try not to think about...
Dad!
Of all these stories, that's the one I wish most that my mom had told me.
とは母親と自分の兄弟たちか。
彼らにも何かあったんでしょうね。
After Sam died, my mom and Edie got really close. They'd both lost a lot.
Dear Kay, do you remember the way Gregory used to laugh when he thought he was alone? Like something funny was happening, but only he could see it.
お、今度は赤ちゃんですか。風呂に一人きりか。
また嫌な予感がするんだぜ。
で、これは何をするんだろう。
とりあえず色々動かしてみようぜ。あ、カエルが動かせるみたいだな。
いけすわこ。
Time's over, Gregory. It's time to... Hold on, sweetie. Hello? Sam, I told you I don't
お
want
い
to
スワ
sleep
コ、
right now.
なんとかしろ。
スワコはジャンプを覚えた。
I wonder what he saw. What his world was like. He reminded me so much of Calvin. Lost in his imagination.
ただいまアヒルによるサバトが開催されています。
スワコ、わら。
Whatever it was, he saw.
なるほど理解した。
It sure made him happy.
「いや何してんだよ。
なかなか登れないんですよ。
I know how silly it sounds. But I worried about a baby being too happy. But I could feel him slipping away.
Sorry about that, Gregory.
I know you did everything you could. Maybe if I hadn't called that night.
Hold on, I don't want Gregory to hear this.
I wish he could have told us about the world he saw. There's so much I don't understand about Gregory, about everything. But I know what happened wasn't your fault.
幻想的 敵な風景だね。
I'm sure he's happy. And he'd want you to be happy too. Good luck, Kay. Love, Sam.
やっぱり赤ちゃんのお風呂はつきっきりじゃなきゃダメなんだぜ。
I can't imagine my mom ever writing poetry, and yet...
A poem for Gus, who always said the wedding was a bad idea. Our father never hit us kids, at least not very hard, before the day my brother said with teenage disregard that he'd be dead before he'd see a wedding in our yard. My father made him come, of course, but Gus stood far apart, just flew his kite and bottled up the storm inside his heart. I tried to talk him out of it, but though he'd never met her, we don't need a stepmom, were the words that I
now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride.
When the time for photos came, Dad ordered him to come here. But Gus declined and as a sign held up his middle finger.
中指元気ね。
The wind picked up and panicked geese appeared and quickly went. But all the humans did that day was go inside the tent. The rain came down in buckets then, but no one seemed afraid that nature might destroy the tent our dad had crudely made. Thunder sounded much too close and full of angry power. But all my father said to this was, "Make the music louder." I wish that I could truly say I thought about you on that day. Out there on the beach alone, just you, the wind, the sea and foam. But I didn't, until we found you.
She never talked about him, but Mom told me once if I was a boy, they were going to name me Gus.
あとは母親と自分の兄弟だけだな。どうか安らかな死であってほしいね。
My mom moved up to the loft after her brothers died. At the time, it was as far away as she could get. She spent a summer building houses in Calcutta, where she met my dad, Sanjay. My mom moved to India a week after graduation and got a job teaching English. Louis was born a year later.
長男はルイスなんだな。
確かEDの部屋の肖像画の人だよね。
家出る1週間前までは生きてたらしいしな。
When my dad died, I don't think Mom knew where else to go. I'm sure Edie was happy to have her back. And to see kids in the house again. The house had to get a little bigger, but Edie was used to that. And for a while, things were good. Almost normal, but it didn't last. The beginning of the end was Milton's 10th birthday, when Edie gave him a castle. After Milton disappeared, the only thing he left behind was a room full of paintings.
次男は画家だったんだな。
Milton Finch in The Magic Paintbrush.
「才能ある者が早死にするのは世の定めなのかもな。
その点から考えると、この家の人たちは才能に溢れていたね。
建築家、画家、子役、他にも色々な人がいたな。
Mom spent months searching for my brother. Then she sealed the doors. Whatever Milton had found in the house, Mom didn't want it getting out.
あとはルイスか。
Mom definitely blamed Edie, but I think Lewis blamed himself.
家の上の
After he
船、どう
graduated,
やっ
he
て乗
just
せたん
spent
だろ
more
う
and
な。
more time in his room. Until Mom got him a job at the cannery. Lewis's room smelled very, very familiar. That part of him lived on. He was so proud of being Indian. I think for him, it was a way to be something other than just a Finch.
Dear Mrs. Finch, as Lewis's psychiatrist, I can understand your desire for an explanation. As I see it, the trouble began in January, shortly after we convinced your son to seek treatment for substance abuse. Newly sober, I believe Lewis first noticed the monotony of his daily life.
缶詰工場か。今にあった缶詰は粉。
手お怪我しないか心
He
配
kept
ね。
working at the cannery. But he withdrew part of himself. In our sessions, I saw the same behavior.
セラピーに通ってたのね。どうやら薬か何かで精神に問題があったようだな。あ、こういう妄想は暇な授業中とかでよくやるよね。テロリストの襲撃で自分が大活躍したりする話とかな。何にせよ、この仕事でながら作業は危険すぎるぜ。
He'd feel his way about. Then something moved. Bats. And toads. And things that have not names.
これキャラ動かしながら避け切るの難しいんだけど。どうやら妄想と一部リンクしてるらしいな。
But he took it very seriously. I had hoped he'd find himself. But he found something more. I worried about him then. Daydreaming at the cannery. I spoke with his boss. But he said Lewis had become a model employee. Methodical, tireless, focused. Like a whole new Lewis. So I let him go on. I even encouraged him. It seemed very promising at first.
だんだんと妄想が侵食してきてるな。もう画面の半分まで来たぜ。
On the edge of a city he named Lewis Topia. He built the city up slowly, brick by brick. Then he made musicians. And songs for them to play. He talked about starting a band. And he was always humming something. Every day his imagination grew stronger. He no longer spoke at the cannery. But his chopping was as reliable as ever. Then one day it struck him that all the cheering crowds, even the stones under his feet, were all in his imagination. So he could do whatever he wished. He held an election for mayor. And he won. They begged him to stay, but his mind was already wandering. It became a game for him. He'd conquer a city, then immediately push on. New Louisville. St. Louis. He started drifting away from our reality. Minneapolis. Until one day he forgot to go home from the cannery. Even as his mother pleaded with him, part of Lewis kept sailing on.
もう戻れないところまで来ちまったんだな。
In Lewisburg, he heard rumors of a
もちろん女王でしょ。
handsome queen. The Queen was on her own quest for...
これは安全そうな虹の方に行きたいわね。あ。残念だったな。蛇だ。
Sinister serpents. He followed the sound of her. Silver harp. His chase led him to a golden palace east of the sun and west of the moon.
どうやら目的地に着いたようだぜ。
Even then, his logic remained sound. He knew the world was all in his imagination.
もう画面の全てが妄想に支配されたぜ。相変わらず酒は切ってるけど。
But he was so proud of having created it. In his own eyes, he'd become something greater than a king. For someone who'd never known success in the real world, I think it was overwhelming. And then it struck him that the real Lewis was not the one chopping salmon, but the one climbing the steps of a golden palace.
ついにここで区別がつかなくなっちゃったのね。
My imagination is as real as my body, he told me. It was hard to argue with him.
どうやらここはルイスの働いていた工場らしいな。うへぇ、掃除されてない血が生々しいわね。
He began to forget the world we know.
ほとんど無人のようだな。
I think it pained him to remember Lewis, the cannery worker. He began to despise the man with a royal contempt.
More 完全に取り立ってやってるわね。
I still thought I could save him. Even after he said he was being crowned king over all the lands of wonder. The palace would be packed with his companions. Including the wise Calico who'd insisted on advising him. His queen waited, holding his crown. There was only one thing left to do. Bend down his head. I think you know. Mrs. Finch, your son was a kind man who will be missed by all of us who knew him.
My brother was really cool. I wish you could have met him.
これであとは母親とこの子だけだな。
Lewis and I spent a lot of time playing games together, but he was surprisingly bad at them. He died a lot. On the way back from Lewis's funeral, my mom told me to start packing. She waited until the day before we left to tell Edie. I'm not sure if she wanted to make it easier or harder. I wish we'd stayed.
あ、このプチプチ気持
But
ち
I
いいわね。
understand why we left. My mom ended up leaving everything behind. What happened that night had been coming for a long time. Maybe it should have come sooner. But it had to end one way or another. All that's left now is to tell you about that last night. That whole last day, Edie just watched us pack and didn't say a word. Until supper, when she raised her glass and said,
"To our final night together, and all our final nights apart."
Grandma, you know what I said about alcohol. Some of your medications are very
Edith,
specific.
I left a present for you in the hallway. Why don't you go open it? The grown-ups have to argue now.
I'm sorry, you're right. We're all leaving tomorrow. Let's just enjoy our last...
I'm not leaving.
Edith, you're excused.
The power had been shut off that morning, but Edie always had plenty of candles. When my mom sealed the library, I don't think she knew about the other entrance. Or that Edie had a key to it.
That thing you're afraid of isn't going to end when you leave the house. Edith has a right to know these stories.
My children are dead because of your stories. I think it's best if Edith and I leave tonight. We'll have the nursing home send a van for you in the morning. Okay?
Dear Edith, there's so many stories I wish I could tell you, but there's only time for one. This is about what happened on the night you were born.
そういや、イディの話については深く触れてなかったな。
The tide went way, way out. It was the first and last time I ever saw the old house aground. There'd been an earthquake out in the middle of the ocean. They called it the lowest tide in 1,000 years. God, it smelled awful. You know, I've seen that house every day of my life.
みんなは引き潮の時に海に出るのは危険だからやめよう
I
ね。
never thought I'd go back to it. When the fog rolled in, I lost my way.
本当に何も見えないな。
I got turned around. For a while, I wondered. I started seeing things. Things I'd forgotten had ever existed. But when I saw them, they felt like old friends. That night, a lot of things came back to me. Or maybe I came back to them. Things I can't explain, but that I need you to try and...
Edith, what are you doing in here?
It's mine.
Edith!
Mom, you're gonna rip it! Let go! I kicked and screamed, but Mom dragged me to the car. I never saw Great-Grandma Edie again.
Edie も行方不明か。
The next morning, the band came to pick her up, but she was already gone. After that, we moved around a lot. We both tried to make the best of it. A few years went by. My mom didn't like to talk about it, but she started getting sick a lot. The rest happened pretty quickly.
みんなも親孝行はやれるうちにやっておいた方がいいんだぜ。母の日にカーネーションを送るくらいはいいんじゃない？
And then she didn't. And then I was alone. The last Finch left alive. Until I found out about you. I'm still not sure what to tell you about all this. If we lived forever, maybe we'd have time to understand things. But as it is, I think the best we can do is try to open our eyes. And appreciate how strange and brief all of this is.
そういえば彼女は妊婦さんだったわね。となるとこれは自分の子供のために書いているのかもな。
But now I hope you'll never see it. I just want to meet you and tell you all these stories myself. But I guess if you're reading this now, things didn't work out that way. This is where your story begins. I'm sorry I won't be there to see it. It's a lot to ask, but I don't want you to be sad that I'm gone. I want you to be amazed that any of us ever had a chance to be here at all. Good luck.
結局彼女もその後亡くなってしまったんだぜ。ということでいかがだったでしょうか？なかなかに考えさせられることの多い名作だったぜ。あとはエンドロールを楽しんでね。